Join the team.
Hey team, this is the McGuire Review, and we're going to take a look at a brand new title from Awaken Realms Lite. Now, everybody knows Awaken Realms for a lot of their bigger, sprawling, campaign-based games. They have a lot of good titles out there today that have been recently kickstarted and delivered. Some awesome stuff. They also have another division of the company called Awaken Realms Lite, if you don't know that. One of them here is called Knockdown. This is their newest title out of that shop, and you can find them right now on Kickstarter. So if you are interested in this game, we're going to take a quick look at this. If you are interested, and I would highly recommend you at least go check it out, if not purchase it. I think this is a fantastic title, and I'm going to tell you why here in a minute. However, they are on Kickstarter right now, and they've only got a few days left. They've already got thousands of backers, which is awesome. You're getting a lot for about $30 US. So definitely go check it out. You're going to get double for what you're seeing here for that price as well. Okay, so what is Knockdown? Knockdown is a two-player combat fighter game, and it is based on the universes that they have already created in other games. So this one here is based on Siege Storm. Thank you, Bear. And that is this game right here. It's a card game they came out with. It's called Siege Storm. It's a really cool combat card game. If you are interested in that, it also comes with a solo mode as well. So if you want to check that out, you can. And the other title that they have released, and thank you, Bear, is Nemesis. So the other version of Knockdown that you can get is based on Nemesis, which is pretty cool. There you go, Bear. So as you're playing these games, you are also getting a little flavor of those different titles, which I thought was pretty cool that they themed and they came up with different box sets that represent the different games that they have. I think it just makes it kind of fun. And the Nemesis one, I obviously don't have my hands on that one. I just have my hands on the Siege Storm version. The Nemesis one looks really, really cool, and I love the fantastic little miniatures and sculpts that come with the Nemesis one as well. These are awesome. I love the sculpts that are in this Siege Storm version. They're just so well done. They're really cool. These are resin version of the sculpts that I have here. Bear will hit these. Go ahead and hit them with the miniature cam so you can take a look on how cool these sculpts are that you're going to get with the game. And with each title, you will get three different sculpts that will come with the game. And you'll be able to do some two-player, hand-to-hand, skill-to-skill combat. Okay, what's Knockdown? So the first thing that I want to show you that I think is pretty cool is the box itself is the arena. So there is some really cool artwork that's in the lids of the box here that you can see, which is pretty neat. And then the underside of the box will look like that, which is the arena. You will kind of battle on this somewhat of a bridge that you'll be standing on. And this bridge has got different spots on it. The darker spots right here is where you're going to start the game. So when you do start, one character will be here, one character will be here, your opponent. And then every one of these other spots is just a spot that you can land on. It's also a spot that you can be at range at. And then these spots here at the end that have sort of a little sunburst around them, these spots are going to be kind of the end of the bridge or the end of the arena. And those are important because if you ever are standing here and your opponent is standing here or here and you take damage, you will take an extra heavy wound, and you also will take double damage standing there in that spot. So it's a very deadly spot to be in, and you definitely do not want to be in that spot and take damage, or you're going to be taking a lot of these wounds more than likely from your opponent. So we'll go ahead and set this up. We'll turn it around, and I can show you here what this is going to kind of look like. You'll put that in there like that. And again, this is all prototype, so it's not going to be perfect, but that's essentially what you're going to get. And that's going to stand up. And then you got this really cool arena, and I'll show you here. I'll take one of my favorite characters and put them right there. And let's use, this one's cool. Use this one right here. You can see kind of what that's going to look like as you're playing the game. It just gives you a little bit more of a neat look and feel as you're playing through the game, and you can kind of visually look at that as you're playing. First, not having any of this, I mean, could you have technically just had cards to represent this fighting game and not had the cool background, not had the miniatures? Sure, you could have. But it wouldn't have been visually appealing, and it wouldn't have been as cool as this. And good Lord, for a $30 price tag and you're getting all of this times 2, I think that's a pretty fair, pretty cool price point for something that is this fun. And I'll show you how fun it is. So let's put this over here for now. I'm going to run through what the components are that you're going to see here on the table, and then I'm going to show you what gameplay looks like, because it's very simple the way that it works. You are going to have 3 different characters here in the set. You've got all 3 of those characters here, and each one of these characters is going to have... There's nothing on the back of this prototype right now. I'm not sure if they're going to put something there, like maybe a reference sheet or something around the actions. I don't know, we'll see. But right now it just has the name of the game there on the back. On the front, however, you're going to have the artwork for that character. And then you're going to have 4 different boxes here. I believe each one of them, yeah, they each have 4 there. If there is something that is in a gray background or border, that's going to be an action you're going to be able to take. So that's like a fight move you're going to be able to do. If there's something that is in a white border or background, that is something that's going to be more of a reaction, generally something that you're blocking or you're reacting to your opponent with. And then you are going to find a number of symbols that are going to be right next to each one of those actions. And those are the cards and the symbols that you need to have inside of your, that you're holding in your hand to be able to execute on those combos. And that's what's going to happen here. These are called combo moves, and it's one of the abilities you'll be able to do in the game. You don't just get to fight, you get to do straight up combo style. You will start the game with a hand of starter cards. These are starter combat cards. Each person will get that. You will also have skills. You will divvy these out at the beginning of the game, and they will add sort of a little passive boost or bonus. So every time you play, there is a level of customization on top of the character that you choose, and each one of these characters is completely different in play style and attack style. Like, extremely different. Which I'm really glad they went that route and they didn't just make generic fighters and then customize them with, okay, well, whatever fight ability you choose, or maybe you get more of these skills in the beginning. I like that they went the extra mile of making each one of these characters completely and uniquely different. And I will jump over here real quick. That's why you're going to see these little tokens right here. This character here, the Keeper of the Forest, Driana, is going to have traps, and she will have some traps that you're able to get as a character. And you can place those traps on the bridge, and then if a person is pulled into it or has to step on one of those traps, something's going to happen to that other character. So that's pretty cool that they made those so much different, and they even have some extra components to go with one of the characters to do those traps. So I like that. Okay, these skills here are going to further customize these characters, and they're going to be passive things like, we'll read here. This one says focused. Your card limit is increased to 7. Normally you can only have 6 cards in your hand. It also says before the first turn, take 1 card from the card row. That's pretty cool. Adrenaline, you have at least a total of 7 heavy or light wounds. Each time you attack, you deal an additional 2 light wounds. That's pretty good. After your opponent passes a KO test, deal him 2 unblockable heavy wounds. That's called bleeding. And it goes on and on and on. There's a number of these skills and these cards that are included in the title here that you can customize your character. And you will get 3 of those to start the game. You'll pick only 2 to have during the game. So there is quite a bit of an option that you'll be given with when you start off the game. You've got your standard combat cards. You're going to have 4 of them out as you're playing. And then you have your deck of combat cards that are here. Okay, how do you win? You win this game unlike other 2-player combat games. Most of these styles of games, once you hit a certain amount of wounds, you take, you have your hit points, whatever, your life force, once that's drained, you would then lose the game. It's not really the way Knockdown works. You lose in Knockdown essentially by 2 different ways. One, this deck runs out, and no opponent has been knocked out, has not been KO'd yet. This deck runs out. It would be, at that point, the person that has the most heavy wounds. You will notice there are 2 different colors of wounds here. These lighter colors are the light wounds, and the darker colored is the heavy wounds. Whoever has the most heavy wounds will be the loser. You could have a ton of light wounds and little heavy wounds, and you'll win the round if this deck runs out. So it really doesn't matter how many of these you have. It matters what type, and it matters when it's looked at, when that count of those wounds is looked at. In this case, it'll be looked at if this deck runs out to nothing. The one with the most heavy wounds is going to lose that round. The other way this works is a straight knockout. So that is going to be if any point in time after you have done damage in this game, you can choose as a player to go for a knockout. And what that means is you will take one heavy wound away from your opponent. You'll throw that back into the pool. Okay. The reason why you take that one heavy wound away is because the heavy wounds make a difference if the deck runs out. So you're going to just kind of balance there. You're going to take one of those heavy wounds away from your opponent, put it in the pool, and then you are going to go for a knockout. And that is like a dex or a roll challenge for your opponent. I prefer the dex. You can do either one, and they have the game set up that way. If you want to do the dex challenge, how it will work is your opponent, let's say this is the amount of wounds and heavy wounds your opponent has. Well, let's say it's this amount. You say, hey, I'm going to knock you out now. So you take one of their heavy wounds away. They have 10 seconds, and the other opponent will count out, but they have 10 seconds to stack these. So it's a dex reaction, which I love that dex mechanic that they put into this game. It adds this extra layer of kind of fun, something different that you wouldn't always normally see. So the opponent that's going for the knockout, they would have to then, within 10 seconds, they would have to stack all these cubes up like this. And you can see just this number of cubes here. Oh, I actually got it. Okay. You can see this is almost ready to fall. And as you're going over the course of that 10 seconds, you are more nervous when you're actually doing it during the game because the person's counting, you're trying to stack, you're trying to make sure they don't fall over. And this is just for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cubes. If I had 9, 10, 11 of these cubes, which is normally what you'll go for with a knockout, it becomes much more difficult. Now, if you're able to stack all of your cubes, then you don't get knocked out. If you can't and the time runs out and they're not all stacked or they fall over, you get effectively knocked out and your opponent wins that round. It is a best 2 out of 3 rounds, so you will always play another round. If you then tie, you'll do a tiebreaker, but it's essentially the best 2 out of 3 to win the game, and you'll always play that way. All right, the other way, the dice that we have here, which is our final component, they will include 3 dice here, and you'll be able to do the same thing, but it'll be a dice roll. So let's say that the dex thing doesn't work for you. You don't want to do that. Maybe it's just it causes too much stress. Whatever the reason is, if you don't want to use the dexterity way, then you can use the dice. The dice is a simple mechanic. All you have to do is roll the 3 dice, and as long as you roll the same amount of wounds that you have or higher, you pass. If you roll a total less than the amount of wounds that you have, you lose the check, you fail the check, and you would effectively be knocked out. So that's how it works. And that is cool that they're giving the player the option to do either the dice or the dex stack of the cubes. Okay, so let's get into the gameplay. When you start the game, you are going to start the game with a hand of 5 of these starter cards. They will be the low kick, the low punch, the cut, the high kick, and the high punch. We're going to go over what these cards mean here just in a second because there's another really cool mechanic I love about this game and how these cards work. So you're going to start with that in your hand. You're going to put 4 cards out from the deck, as you can see there, and then each player is going to get 3 of these skill cards, and each player is going to pick 2 of them. So you're going to look here, and you're going to pick. Let's say I just wanted these 2. I'm going to discard this one. Let's say this player wanted these 2 and discarded this one. They are going to look at these 2 cards, and you're only going to reveal one of them. So let's just say during KO test, you may ignore 4 cubes you have in your wounds pool. Wow, that is really powerful. I'm going to absolutely put that one up. And this other one's called Lucky Devil. I'm going to put that one down. And the one that you're going to use for this round, let's just say randomly this player chose this one and put this one down. The one that's going to be active for the round is the one that is facing up. The only reason why you have a secondary one is because if you were to lose the first round, going into the second round, the loser player will be able to flip over the second skill and use that. The other player that was the winner would stick with just their single passive skill they had. So what does that do? That gives that other player a little bit more of an edge going into the second round with now 2 active passive abilities. And does it make a difference? Yes, sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. I've played this game a number of times and won a number of times against players that had 2 active passive abilities, and I only had 1. It did not guarantee them the win of that second round by any means. So I don't want anybody to think that maybe that just massively unbalances that second round for the other player to allow them to really win, and then it to just always come down to that like third round, winner take all. That's really not the design here. It does give the second player or that losing player of the first round a little bit of an edge, but I wouldn't say it just throws the game in their favor by any means. That's how the skills are going to work. So one of those is going to be up, and then you don't really need this anymore. That's kind of out for the purposes of that gameplay. You don't need these cards anymore. And then you are ready to play. You're going to have your pool of wounds. You're going to place your characters on your starting locations as we've done. So we'll go ahead and get those characters. We'll pull those out. Let's say that we've got them here. Push this up a little bit. We've got these characters right here. You are then going to, from your hand, discard 2 of them at the beginning before you start. And those are essentially going to be, whichever ones have the highest value is going to be the player that goes first. So let's say I discarded a couple cards here for this player, and let's just say I discarded these 2 cards here for this player. And now you may want to keep those separate just because easier to kind of start up the next round. Now we're ready to go. And let's say that initiative-wise, the Verota here, it was the character that got the highest initiative. So this character will go first, this character will go second. When it is your turn, there is a number of actions you can take, 4 different actions exactly, and you can do those actions multiple times. So you will have 2 actions on your turn, so 2 different things you can do. You can pick from a list of 4 different things, and you can do those 4 different things multiple times if you want to. So of the 4 that are available, you can rest, which is not something you're going to want to do right off the bat. If you rest, you discard half of your light wounds. So, if you had a whole pile of wounds, you could rest. And, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 light wounds, so I could discard 2 of them. You always round down. I could discard half of those. And that's going to help you if you got a bunch of wounds and you feel like a knockdown is coming your way, a dex challenge or a dice challenge, depending on the route you chose to go when you started the game. I guess one person could do the dice and another person could do the dex if you really wanted to do that, but you're supposed to kind of choose which route you're going to go. You may want to rest to really help yourself with that knockdown, but you're not going to want to do that right off the bat. The second action that you can take is you can move. So you can move your character 1 space forward or back, or you can attack, which means you essentially will draw. So the attack is kind of a draw action. You will draw from I'll just say your attack cards essentially here that you have, your attack line. And when you draw a card, you'll be able to do the attack that's on that card, if in fact you are exactly in a distance from that character. So, for instance, we'll look at our high kick here. So on the high kick card, it indicates that you have to be within 2 distance of the character. It doesn't mean 1 or 2. You have to be exactly 2 spots away from who you're attacking. Some of these will have a 1 here, which means you have to be exactly 1 spot away. And then it will deal 2 light wounds. And these cards really are that simple. Sometimes you'll see light wound and a heavy wound. Sometimes you'll see some flavor text on the card, like our bash here. It says deal 1 light wound, move opponent 1 space backward, move yourself 1 space forward. So that would be really good if you wanted to knock a character into that danger zone there, and then move up and then be able to attack again, maybe do a combo. We'll talk about that action here in a second. But that's as simple as these cards are. They're very, very simplistic. And one thing that's really cool about this is these cards function in 2 ways. When they're down here in the row and you're drawing, you draw the card and you do what the card says down here. That's the action you get when you draw it. And then you put that card in your hand. This little symbol up here, it doesn't mean anything. These symbols only mean something when you want to actually execute your special player abilities when you do your combo action. So these cards function in two ways. And it's just something to remember that it's like, oh, I want to move, so I'll draw this. It's like, yeah, this card allows you to move only when you're doing something with your combo of your character. It doesn't just allow you to move because it has this little arrow on it. It does this. It does the low punch. So it's something to remember that when you draw, you do what's at the bottom. When you're doing combos, you use the symbols at the top when you have that card in your hand. And that's how that's going to work when you draw. Or the final action, which is combo, and that is going to allow you to do the things that are on your card. And over the course of play, you're going to acquire these cards in your hand, and you're going to have these different symbols now. So once you put it in your hand, you can just kind of stack them like that. It doesn't matter what it says down here. It's only what's up here, these symbols. And then you can look at your card and you can say, okay, I want a combo. Well, if I want to do Fists of Flurry, I have to be one spot away. I need a fist. So it tells me right there, one spot away, and I need a fist. So I can look at my cards and say, well, I do have a single fist right here. And it deals unblockable 2 light damage. You can do up to 4 times each turn. So the Fists of Flurry, you can do it up to 4 times each turn. Now the reason why this one says that is because normally you can only do your special abilities once per turn. You can do multiple of them. That's the way combos work. After you hit one of these, you can say, okay, my combo's over. Or I can continue to cash symbols in my hand in to do more things. Or the other thing that you can do is if you had picked up any of these cards that's got this little arrow on it, you can lay those down and move your character that many number of times. So if I only had one, then I could move one time forward or backwards. Those are all the things you can do on a combo. So a combo action is very powerful, and it's generally one of the things you're going to do probably as that second action in your turn. That first action is probably going to be moving and positioning yourself or drawing cards if you're already positioned. And this is another thing you got to think of. When you draw the cards, do you draw the card for that attack action you're going to get when you draw it? Or are you strategically drawing the card and you don't really care about the attack action? You're more interested in that symbol that's at the top because your second action is going to be executing a combo attack with your special abilities, and you need, let's say you wanted to do the four-handed axe, which is my favorite attack by this character. You're going to need the karate chop symbol flying through the air. You're going to need the yin yang symbol, and you're going to need a question mark. Question mark means you can use any card. Well, let's say that for demo purposes, that was another symbol that I needed that I didn't have in my hand. Maybe for that first action, I would just draw a card that had that symbol to just be able to then do the four-handed axe attack, which deals unblockable 4 heavy damage. Use it only as a first move in combo. Discard all your cards. So after you do that, you do have to discard everything that's in your hand, which does kind of drain your hand to nothing, essentially. However, it's a very, very powerful attack, and you can do an attack like that and then go for a big knockdown challenge or knockout challenge, especially if you do this kind of attack if you've got your opponent pinned up against a wall. It's a game changer. I mean, it's a deadly, deadly move by this character. It's probably one of its most powerful moves is getting someone against a wall and hitting them with the four-handed axe. Okay? After you've done this and you've made damage, your opponent can always use cards in their hand that have the shield symbol to block incoming damage. Some of the characters, again, will have reactive abilities. They can use that to react and block. Again, they have to have the symbols to be able to pay for those things. It isn't just a free block. You always have to have the symbols to be able to do those things. And again, that may be another one of your strategies. You may be picking up these shields simply because you want those shields to block incoming damage. Or you may be picking up symbols that help you with your reaction because you know your opponent's going to go on a big, big strike attack. So you're going to keep that in mind as you're playing. And then after you've done the damage, you can, if you want, go for the knockout challenge. But again, you're going to want to make sure it makes sense. You're not just going to always go for that, because you do have to remove one of your opponent's heavy wounds to be able to go for that knockout. What I have found is when you're rolling the dice, and I wouldn't play based on these numbers, it's just the number of times I've played, I've found this statistics-wise. If you have 10 to 11 cubes, so if your opponent has 10 to 11 cubes, going with the dice roll, you've got a great chance to knock them out. If your opponent has 8 to 9 cubes, going for the dexterity stack, you're going to have a pretty good chance. They're probably going to get away with 8 cubes. It's probably more like 9 to 10. If they got 9 to 10 cubes, that is, I found that's always a difficult stack to get to, unless you're really quick, you got a dexterity +1 naturally, right? You're really steady. You might be able to do it. But those are usually good numbers to be able to go for when you're going for that knockout against your opponent. And again, team, that's the entire game. That is how simple this game is. That is how it works. It's a very, very simple title. It's a very cool title. I love the strategy and the tactics that go back and forth. It is a very, very tactical game. I think the only thing strategic that I would say that's really in this game is just when you acquire certain symbols, and are you just going for those symbols in hand and not necessarily the small sort of gut jabs and attacks that you get when you do the draws. I've played this game with the strategy before of just like, I could care less what's on the bottom of these cards. I'm only going to just go for drawing cards that I need these symbols. And then I'm going to wait and really, really position myself well for a big, just nasty set of combo attacks. Because again, you can do a number of these within that combo action if you have all of the right cards in your hand. Now, it is important to remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 right now. It is a max hand limit of 6 unless you do have a skill, a passive ability that will allow you to have a bigger hand limit than 6. I think 7 is as large as it will go in the cards. I believe so. 7 is the largest it would go in the cards. But that's the only way that you're going to get more than 6 in your hand. And you can execute in a mighty flurry of blows and a different number of attacks. Team, that is Knockdown. Go check it out on Kickstarter right now. Again, you've only got a few days left. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. You're getting this, plus for free, you get the Nemesis version of this game, all for about $30. Now, I believe the shipping's on top of that, but base price, all for about $30 US. Excellent price, excellent game. Couldn't recommend it more. So hit that like, hit the subscribe below to join the team. Keep rolling them crits. This has been the McGuire Review, and we'll see you next time.